Plug.
Welcome back to MMA Plug.
Plug.
And today we're going to be talking about how the UFC has dipped in quality with its rankings post the purchase of the UFC by Paramount Plus.
Plug.
And I want to first preface that the UFC rankings are influenced by a fighter's performance, whether they have the ability to maintain relevancy, or they have the influence once they beat a fighter, they absorb the influence of another fighter, they then have the influence to become a champion.
Plug.
I think the UFC as of late has let the influence of shareholders and Paramount Plus to just dip the enthusiasm of making fights or even allowing some fighters in the rankings just fall out. Now the ranking system is about setting up a fighter to, become a champion or make the next fight to, build another fighter's stock. The rankings do not reflect this is the best fighter and this is their exact position because they are the best, or right below another better fight.
Plug.
But now let's transition to the pound for pound rankings. First, I want to start with number 15 of the pound for pound rankings, Arman Tsarukyan. He has a right to be at number 15. He's beating a champion in Charles Oliveira. To some, their GOAT. But Charles Oliveira rests right above him. That doesn't make much sense with me. Arman Tsarukyan at this point in time is a better fighter than Charles Oliveira. So why is Charles Oliveira above him in the pound for pound ranking? Arman proved it by beating him. Many it was arguable, it was a split decision, but Arman won. And if Arman were to fight Islam at 155, I think he has a closer chance than Charles. We've seen that Arman has a right to be above Charles Oliveira. Can just fall a little bit, maybe be at that 50 position and have Arman rest at 14 and Magomed at 13. But to talk about Magomed and Goliath, I want to talk about how I don't think he should really be at 14. If we're going to have Yuri Prochazka versus Carlos Ulberg, I think that Magomed Goliath, it's kind of arguable whether Yuri should be on there. Another champion. Although his win ratio against Alex Pereira isn't quite as good as Magomed, I think Yuri, with the position to be fighting for a championship spot, he should be in the pound for pound ranking. It just makes sense, especially just with how the UFC just is lenient to just set up fighters based on the rankings to set them up for bigger things. The rankings are their excuse to project a fighter.
Plug.
If Joshua Van is an undisputed champion, how is Alexandre Pantoja above him in the pound for pound rankings? I think, if that were the case, Joshua Van should be interim and Alexandre should be the undisputed because it was a freak accident the way he lost. I don't think it was a TKO in Joshua Van's favor, but if that's the case, Joshua Van should be in its place with Alexandre Pantoja in place of him. But again, I get it. But again, it's just so flippy-floppy with how the champion status is. I think Joshua Van should be interim. Again, one of my favorite fighters, amazing boxing style, but he did not beat Alexandre in an undisputed fashion.
Plug.
You can't dispute the fact that he's an undisputed champion. I think he should be interim. Next, I have my biggest gripe. Way far above up the list, we have Khamzat Chimaev. I think Khamzat Chimaev, his competition is not competent to what we think in our head. Okay, not counting Dricus du Plessis, his opponents have been 8-13 since 2023. And this includes some welterweight fights like Jack Hermanson and Gilbert Burns, but they have been on losing streaks themselves. Gilbert Burns had a war with Khamzat, but it just goes to show that I don't think Khamzat's skills have progressed much in any sort of way. He didn't showcase that with the fight against DDP. If that was a fight, I'm sorry, but it put me to sleep. Spawned in here with my notes, I have that since 2023,
Plug.
he has beaten Robert Whittaker, who has been 2-3, beating Ikaram and Costa. I don't think that's really comparable composition, considering that Costa is no longer in the division, and you have Ikaram, who's not ranked at this point in time. But again, I understand that was also a late replacement fight. Now we're down to Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland was another welterweight fight, but it was more of a catchweight. But Holland has been 5-6. I'm a big fan of Holland. I remember back in the day, dude, he was one of my favorite fighters, being a long, lengthy fighter and just being able to strike and knock people out and just talking trash. That's just one of my favorite things. But again, 5-6, that's not championship level competition. And Gilbert Burns, who's been 2-4, losing to Jack Della Maddalena, which isn't, bad competition, a champion. And he's lost to Morales. Morales is a murderer, a marauder, if I should say. So I understand Gilbert Burns in this position, but even considering Usman is back at welterweight and he hasn't fought since Buckley, and he showed levels against Buckley, but in wrestling, I think that, Khamzat is just a one-trick pony, and I don't think he deserves to be at number 3. Alex Pereira should be at number 3. Someone who's defended, his title multiple times, even going up a weight class, even now going up to a third, and he's not at number 3. It's crazy to me. It's baffling. He's, lost a couple fights, but he's even redeemed himself, earned redemption status. And, a lot of fighters can't say that. I think about GSP, a GOAT of mine, and he has earned redemption over a loss of his, losing to Matt Serra. I think that's very GOAT.
Maybe it's the urge to cut costs, but the UFC have not made great fights, reasonable fights, whether it's been Ribovics and Gamrot or Edmund Shabazian and Brendan Allen. These random, unranked contestants fighting ranked contenders makes no sense, but it aligns with scheduling purposes and it's easy for the company. This is MMA Plug and Post. I was unable to finish this video timely. I had it scheduled for the Yuri and Goldberg fight, but I was unable to just do it in time. I intended for a 30-minute video, but I just couldn't quite meet that. But I hope you understand and you look forward to my future videos because I plan to record one tomorrow.